Hello and welcome to Hot Topic, where we discuss the controversial, the political and the provocative issues of Northern Lincolnshire and East Yorkshire. I'm Hugh Riches. Our topic today is the regeneration or vandalisation of Grimsby. North East Lincolnshire Council is overseeing a £6 million project to redesign the town. Residents and visitors have noticed some disruption and a rather fetching herringbone tweed built into the pavements. With me here to discuss this are Damian James White from the Council, Marcus Asquiff from the Council's partnership with Belford BT, and David Atkin from the Grimsby Hackney Carriage Association. Gentlemen, welcome.
Welcome.
Damian, may I start with you? Will you explain what the project is and what its objectives are?
Well, absolutely. The project, which is known as the Local Sustainable Transport Fund project, is a project comprising £4.3 million from the Department for Transport, together with further council funds and other funding in place, which has an overriding objective to increase the accessibility of the town centre for residents and the ability for residents to access differing parts of the borough. And it is very much more than just the town centre works that we see on ground today.
And how much is that costing the council taxpayers of Grimsby?
The council taxpayers of Grimsby, as I say, £4.3 million of the overall project is funded by the Department for Transport. There is a further £850,000 of capital funding, which the council has allotted to this scheme. So I would suggest a healthy match there in terms of the other funding. And we've also made an allocation from our local transport fund monies as well to support the overriding scheme.
And as you said, it's more than just the works in the middle of the town. There are other aspects to it. What are the overall benefits that those of us who live in Grimsby are going to see?
What I would suggest and hope to see is that Grimsby Town Centre will be more accessible over a choice, from a choice of different transport opportunities to reach the town. So whether you choose to go and buy a car, whether you choose to use taxi, whether you choose to use a bus, whether you choose to cycle, whether you choose to walk, they're the opportunities that I would like to see enhanced within the borough. And moreover, the overriding scheme is looking at accessibility to work. Hence we have the Move More scheme, we have the Wheels to Work schemes that are in place to allow subsidised travel for people re-entering work, for instance.
David, what do you say to that? That's going to encourage the taxi trade in Grimsby.
Well, it certainly needs some encouragement at the moment. We felt that over the years, the general sentiment of the council has not been particularly supportive of the Hackney carriages, and the general view of the drivers at the moment is that the current development continues that particular trend. Now, we don't expect any particular preferential treatment over other road users, other people in the town, but we do feel that we have become more marginalised, particularly down at the Riverhead, where we've been pushed further away from the shops. We also feel that we've been marginalised in that the number of taxi spaces outside the station has been reduced from 13 to 6. And we feel that's not a particularly wise move, because when people are coming off the train, when the trains are busy and full, those 6 cars will quickly go, and therefore there will not be any Hackney carriages there for those customers to see, and they won't really know, how long they're going to have to wait. So we don't feel that the taxis have been given sufficient thought in terms of providing the accessibility that's mentioned.
Is there enough taxi trade in Grimsby to support the number of cabs that we have at the moment?
Well, the number of cabs is limited, currently limited to 220. It was a short while ago 235. But the survey that determined that number showed that since the last survey 3 years ago, the overall demand for taxis has reduced by 27%. Which is considerable. For every 1,000 customers we had 3 years ago, we've now got 750. So it's quite significant.
And what's causing that? Is it?
I think it's just the economic downturn, to be perfectly honest. People have less disposable income. You can tell by the pub trade in the week. Less people go out. As you know, a lot of pubs have closed, and that's the use of taxis is a reflection of that. So we feel that it's the general economic situation, and we don't see it changing very quickly.
And it's not helped, in your view, by this scheme?
It's certainly not helped. It's a bit of a mixed bag. We've got some taxi ranks now in Bethlehem Street and Osborne Street, so those are in effect closer to the customers who are in Freshney Place, and fair enough, when they walk through, There are 3-4 car ranks there now outside Poundland, the pub, the Friary pub, and John Pettit's Butchers. So yes, there are some ranks there, but we're concerned about the station. We're also concerned about the Riverhead because we've been pushed back beyond Town Hall Street, whereas we were between Town Hall Street and New Street. Now that's because the bus station has been moved down onto Victoria Street. So we understand why, but we feel that the taxis haven't been given, given the prioritisation that they perhaps could have been given.
I'm going to turn to Marcus Asquiff. Would you just explain the relationship between North East Lincolnshire Council and Belford BT? Is there an obligation to Belford BT to fulfil a contract or to award a contract? What's the nature of this relationship?
Belford BT have been employed through a competitive process to actually work as a regeneration partner with North East Lincolnshire Council, and it covers a whole host of services in terms of highways, in terms of regeneration from planning and development. There's an architectural service, and we also manage the council's asset portfolio too. So it's quite a broad-based contract and quite innovative. There isn't quite a contract model like it across the whole country, and the range of services that the council have actually put out to Belford BT to work with is quite a unique blend, and with the responsibilities that have been passed over as well. But there is obviously a management structure in place that facilitates a very cooperative style of working.
Well, it sounds as if the local government has subcontracted government to a private company.
Well, if I'd come in there, I wouldn't suggest we've subcontracted. As with a number of different sectors, the public sector is no different. We have to look at how we do things differently, more effectively. And a few years ago now, we as a local authority looked at how we were going to look at the council taking its right and proper role as facilitating change within our borough, positive change, and how then we were going to see that delivered. And the conclusion we came to at the time was that we would work with a delivery partner, which is effectively who Marcus is representing today, and we work together very closely and collaboratively, as Marcus suggests, to deliver the key projects within our borough and drive economic growth, which is frankly the main aim of the position of the partnership. And
it's the council is sure that this is the most efficient. I don't want to say cheapest, because I don't want to make the council sound cheap, but this is the most efficient and economically effectively way to do it for the council taxpayers or the community charge payers of Grimsby.
That is right, and as Marcus alluded to, it was through a competitive process, and it has seen additional resource and expertise brought into the borough.
I must ask about, I know it's not all about the herringbone design, but that's what we've all noticed. That's what we've all seen on Freeman Street, around the station, around Bethlehem Street. Who is the artist who came up with that idea? Where does that colour scheme and that design come from? It looks pricey. It looks lovely, but it looks pricey. Maybe
yeah, I think that's one for me. In terms of the highway asset, we have to obviously take into consideration several factors. One primary consideration was the Victoria Street pedestrianisation, which took place some 5 or 7 years ago, I believe, prior to my arrival here. And there's a dark granite surface that's been used predominantly through that scheme, and we had to pick that up and actually extend a similar kind of design outwards and into the rest of the area that we're trying to expand as part of the regeneration of the town centre.
And what do we feel about it? Do we like the pattern? What's the feeling in the town?
Well, irrespective of that, can I just ask a question of these two gentlemen? I've heard a rumour recently that the block paving will not withstand the buses and the transit between Station Approach and the old marketplace. Is there any truth in that?
Well, perhaps that's something we can come back to in the second half. I'm sorry, we're going to have to break there. Join us again after this break. Welcome back to Hot Topic, where we're discussing the regeneration of Grimsby. David Atkins from the Grimsby Hackney Carriage Association was asking about the strength of the road outside the station. Will it bear the buses? I think that's probably one for Marcus Asquiff from Belford BT, who's making this project.
Well, I can categorically confirm that it will withstand the loading for the buses and anything else that would be a normal vehicle that would actually travel along that route. So it is all part of our design calculations when we're actually carrying out the design for the scheme.
Damian James White from North East Lincolnshire Council. What consultation was there with the public before the design patterns were decided?
There was, if we can actually rewind a few years now, going back to when the local authority, together with what was Yorkshire Forward, pulled together the Grimsby Town Centre master plan work. When there was mass public consultation, we actually had a retail unit in the town centre for a few years that was looking at the future of the town centre and the various zones within it. That led on to some further work, again through public consultation, which developed up the desire to see station approach accelerated in terms of further development. St James Square designs produced and delivered. That is still in the making, together with Riverhead Square. And it is what we see on the ground today is the outcome of that extensive public consultation. That is where we are.
People wanted the black and white.
In terms of the detail of the black and white, as Marcus has already picked up, that was a necessity, although I think it's quite striking and do like it myself, but that's a personal view, to carry on a theme, but not the same as from Victoria Street pedestrianisation.
You mentioned the Riverhead Square there. What's going up there? What's going to be the change there to what is now the big bus station?
Well, what you see at Riverhead Square in terms of the traffic redesign is a number of bus stops that go around the highway network, freeing up a large open space of which, and forgive me because I can't go into detail, we are having ongoing dialogue with the owners of Freshney Place about further developments that would be complementary to the town centre and Freshney Place. There's
a possibility that Freshney Place could extend up to the water itself, up to the old dock.
There is a possibility. We would clearly still want to see the linkages through to the north there. We wouldn't go all the way up to the waterfront. But yes, that is a hope and expectation for the more medium term, yes.
Well, that leads me on to that economic point about retail, which I think again is more of a council point than anything else, is that the redevelopment will encourage retail. It'll mean that there could be a greater retail space in Grimsby. Rather, as my earlier question to David about whether there was a market for a number of taxis, is there a market, are there enough people, is there enough demand in Grimsby for more shops when we're seeing shops closing down?
Well, and again, you'll have to forgive me because I'm not at liberty to go into detail, but it's whether or not it is retail space that we're talking about, a more complementary space to retail that we might have an aspiration for.
Complementary space being?
Maybe space which creates more of the environment to allow shoppers to dwell longer in the town centre, so complementary activities to retail. Forgive me, I cannot and will not go into further detail, but that is what we need to see, because within the town centre itself, what we have seen is what we call the dwell time of people visiting it, reducing year on year on year for a period of time now. We need to reverse that, which picks up Dave's point around the economic climate. We have to do something here which has a greater chance of increasing the number of visitors to the town centre, which ultimately then has a benefit for all of us.
There's one of the further objectives of the scheme was the variety of forms of transport that will be available. Taxis, of course, buses. You mentioned cycling as well. Presumably walking is in there. But one of the objectives of the scheme in its various publicity is to improve the health of the people of Grimsby, North East Lincolnshire. Well, who are you to improve my health? I'm perfectly happy with my unhealthy and vile vices and appalling living habits. David Atkin, I know, eats an extremely delicious and horribly unhealthy breakfast every morning. What is it not a little presumptuous for a private company or for a local authority to be telling us how to live our lives?
Well, I'm not one for the health virtues necessarily, but I don't think anyone's telling anyone how to run their lives. I think the point is about choice. And if people would like the opportunity to exercise more by way of walking, cycling, whatever they choose to do, then they should have that choice. And they can either take it or not take it, would be my view on that.
If I could just add in as well, I think it's a combined factor in terms of enabling people to actually access Grimsby and the surrounding area by maybe coming into Grimsby on a train, hiring a cycle, and then actually being able to tour the network, and actually, you know, it is renowned to be a very cycling friendly environment in terms of being flat and good conditions for actually driving around and cycling around the borough.
I still feel when I see those checkered stones and those bicycle racks that you want me to come into Grimsby and eat a salad. Not the case?
Well, if you wish to eat a salad, feel free, but if you'd like to have McDonald's, equally.
Equally.
Thank you. There are other hamburgers are available. Well, if I move on just to transport more generally, rather than the regeneration scheme here, and Marcus Asquiff, I think you might have something to say on the matter of Peaks Parkway and the confusing rapidity of change in speed limits and sighting of police cameras there. Is that under your ambit?
It is under my remit, but I'm not quite sure that I necessarily agree with your comments about confusing and rapidly changing speed limits along there. What we're trying to do is actually ensure a consistent flow of traffic down Peaks Parkway. It is quite a high accident area, and by controlling the speed at a sensible 30 miles an hour actually minimises quite significantly the impacts of any accidents that occur along there.
How often have the speed limits changed on Peaks Parkway? It's been,
to the best of my knowledge, it's been 30 miles an hour since the late 90s. So it's been 30 for some time.
And when did the number of speed cameras that are up there, when did they increase?
There's no actual, there are new cameras on there. There's not been any cameras there previously. So the cameras that are on there now are completely additional to what were there.
And has there been an increase in the number of people photographed and charged and fined for speeding in the last year or so on Peaks Parkway?
Well, this is a new scheme. The average scheme, the average speed scheme is a new scheme. I haven't got the information because it's recently conceived, as you were, or came into operation. So we are aware, just for our own surveys, that there's a very high incidence of speeding along there, and there's also been a very high accident rate. So that's why our primary concerns are to make the flow of traffic smoother across the network, which improves the environment, but it also controls the outcome of the accident. A 30-mile-an-hour accident is far less serious than a 40-miles-an-hour accident.
David, your drivers must have noticed a few unwelcome notes coming in through the mail recently.
Well, yes, yes, a few of them have, and we've seen all the publicity in the local newspaper about it. I mean, the thing is now, Peaks Parkway, far from being the most rapid form of transport place of transport through the town, is now one of the slowest. Nobody dare go 31 mile an hour. If you go to Hainton Avenue, Hennage Road, Fairbrother Street or Legsby Avenue, you'll find cars down there doing 30 miles an hour between parked cars, when normally they would have been doing like 25 or 26 or something of that nature, because they don't go onto the parkway in case they just go over the limit. And so I think, my personal view is that it's ridiculous to have a 30 mile an hour limit in a big road like that with no pavement, no shops, no pedestrians, no nothing. The thing is built for 40 miles an hour and it should be 40 miles an hour.
Thank you very much. And just one note from the council, a last moment on Peaks Parkway. It's a wide, straight road. Is 30 too slow?
The honest answer is I do not know. I'm not a highways engineer. Marcus Asquiff explained quite clearly the position in terms of needing to slow the traffic down due to the number of accidents. Well, I'm sure we'd all want to see the number of accidents reduced.
Okay, and very finally, one quick word, the regeneration so far, a success, Marcus?
Certainly from my perspective, I think it's bringing a great improvement to the town centre.
Resounding.
Resounding success, not surprisingly from North East Lincolnshire Council. David.
Far too slow, disrupted everybody's Christmas.
Far too slow. Gentlemen, thank you very much, and I hope you found that enlightening and that you'll join us again for the next hot topic. Goodbye.